I think of John chapter 8, verse 31 and 32. Jesus said, if you continue in my word, then you are truly my disciples, and then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And folks, that's why, how many times do you hear me, Brandon Big B, Mike Shoesmith, Dr. Grace, I mean, these guys that are co-hosts and correspondents, how many times do you hear us say, as things unfold, you say, you know what, we've been telling you this for years. We were called conspiracy theorists, we were called racists, we were called idiots, we were called whatever, and we told you, if you go down this road, if you put this guy in office, if you vote for this, if you do this, if you think this, if you believe this, just watch, within months or a few years, X is going to happen. And people say, y'all are crazy. How many times, though, have we come back and said, here it is. It's in the headlines of the news, and we told you it was going to happen. Now, why is that? Is it because we're all so brilliant? Is it because we have crystal balls? Is it because we're all prophets and prophetesses? No. It's because we stand in the Word and we're not ashamed of it. We know the truth, and the truth has set us free. And we're not ashamed to say it. And when if we misspeak, if we say something that's not true, we'll get it right. Why? Because we want to stand with truth. Isn't that right, Brandon Big B?
Sounds right to me, brother.
Well, I mean, that's just the way you're supposed to live. You and I don't always get everything right, and we don't always speak accurately. Sometimes we misspeak and we misquote something, but when we find out, we make it right because we want to walk in truth. But often we do speak, and sadly, a lot of what we surmise comes to pass just because we know the biblical principles behind it, just like the Middle East.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, let's give one real-life example that has hit headlines this week.
Okay.
And that is the supposed newly formed partnership between Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
Yeah, right.
You know what I say?
Yeah.
Baloney. They're the same group. That's the same people.
Always
renamed by our government to confuse people and throw people off because we were caught red-handed arming Al-Qaeda. So we had to rename this new radical group ISIS, and now all of a sudden, what conspiracy theorists have been screaming for the last several months since ISIS came on the scene, that these are the same people, it's the same group, they're Al-Qaeda renamed.
Yep.
That would be us.
I said it from day one. I said it from day one right here on Freedom Friday. As soon as ISIS was named, I came on the air, I told people what ISIS stood for, ISIS, and I said on the air, they are Al-Qaeda renamed. I said that, and people called me names on not on the air, but on the blogs and stuff. Not only that, Brandon, but let's not forget, Al-Qaeda is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood has representatives in the White House. Abedin was Hillary Clinton's chief of staff. Her mother, her father, her brother were huge Muslim Brotherhood operatives. Michelle Bachmann wrote a report, sent it to the president with 5 other congressmen saying, what's up with all the Muslim Brotherhood people in the White House? And they were trashed by John McCain, John Boehner, and what's the cute little boy that's senator he was born in Cuba? Marco Rubio. I mean, these so-called conservatives trashed Michelle Bachmann for saying this. And, of course, we've been reporting on this. This is why I said, folks, don't vote for Marco Rubio. He's a Trojan horse. And now it's headline news that we were right all along. Go ahead, Brandon.
Listen, our whole objective that was sold to the American people through the events of 9/11, 2001, was that we were going to the Middle East to fight these terrorists there so we didn't have to fight them here.
Right.
That we were going there to bring democracy to the Middle East. But what wasn't told to the United States and to the rest of the nations that joined in this coalition was that when we go there and when we start deposing these leaders who, as evil as they are, and listen, make no mistake, all of these leaders in the Middle East are dictators. Hussein was, Morsi was, Assad is, the guy from Libya just left my mind, Gaddafi. All dictators and terrible people in their own right. But what all of these people were not doing, let's get this straight, what they were not doing was slaughtering Christians by the thousands.
That's true.
Until what happened? Until we went there, created a vacuum of power, I believe intentionally,
I do too. I've said that. Yep.
100% intentionally.
I said that the day it
created
happened.
a vacuum of power, and now what has happened? Because of think of the irony of this. Because of the United States, this great supposed Christian nation, where 80% of people in this country, if you walk up to them on the street and ask them if they're a Christian, say yes, has gone in and opened the door for the slaughter of Christians in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Brings to mind Matthew 24, you will be hated upon by how many nations?
Yeah,
all
nations,
including the great Christian nation, the United States.
Yeah, yeah, and here we are.
And I want to remind people, because listen, as evil as Barack Obama is, and make no mistake, he is evil, this was started by George W. Bush.
It
you
was.
know, that great Christian conservative president.
Yeah.
No, make no mistake.
Well, tell people. I mean, listen. You've said a
plan from the very beginning.
You've said a mouthful.
So was
tell
his father.
Yeah, you've said a mouthful. Tell the folks some of the connections to George W. Bush and his father, and how all of this kind of started with them.
Okay, just go back to 10 years to the day before 9/11 happened. George H.W. Bush, and you can look this up, this is in the congressional records, gives a speech before a joint session of Congress for a, quote, new world order.
I remember that. And was that on
the day
was it on September the 11th? Was it really?
September the 11th, 1991.
Listen, I remember the speech, and I remember his words, because I remember using them from the pulpit, saying, folks, we're in for some prophetic times on the way. I did not remember that it was 9/11.
September the 11th, 2001, 10 years to the day before 2001. Okay, so then, you know, we move forward, we go through the Clinton years, and you know, the Bushes have been in bed with the Saudis all along, going back before George H.W. Bush. All right, so then 9/11 happens. What was the only plane that flew on September the 12th, 2001 in the United States? Yeah. There was one aircraft that flew in the United States that day. Yep. And it was a plane that left this country with all of the members of the Saudi royal family that were in this country. And if you think I'm crazy, if you think I'm making that up, you look that up. That is mainstream news reporting that. Now, it was buried on page 411 of mainstream news, but it was reported. Right.
No, I remember. No, you're absolutely right. I remember it. Absolutely. That was the only plane that flew that day, taking people of the Saudi family out of here.
Out of this country. Right. And now we have the Middle East in turmoil, in absolute turmoil. And we have this convergence of nations. Look at Russia and China this week and what's happened with them making this deal, this $400 billion deal, a slap in the face of the United States, going against the sanctions that were tried to be imposed against Russia for their involvement in the Ukraine situation. Right. And then we have, and then right after that, Russia comes out and says they're going to be flying strategic bomber flights all over the world, including where? Over the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
Backed by the Chinese.
First time in history. Yeah.
By the way, the Chinese, the country that owns most of our debt and is buying up property and businesses in this country at a record rate. Right. Yeah. So you want to tell me that we're in trouble? You want to tell me that the United States is still sitting atop the world and the power and the glory that we once were? No, by no means. Yeah. By no means whatsoever.
Well, and people, let me just interject on top of what Brandon has said. Now, I'm going to preach just a little bit, but please bear with me, because we're talking.
You can preach a lot of bit, brother.
Well, I'm telling you, but this is eternity. This is eternal stuff, and this is historical stuff. This is real stuff. This is biblical stuff. History bears it out. The Word of God is clear. When a nation spits in the face of God, now He's patient, He is long-suffering, but He never lets a nation get away with it. Never. Go to the Scriptures and read. Go to history and watch. When a nation slaughters tens of millions of its babies in the fires of Molech, we call it abortion in the United States. Yeah. When a nation... Now, homosexuality has always been around, but I don't think God judges a nation simply because there are homosexuals there, okay? Homosexuality is not the unforgivable sin. But when a nation goes radical homosexual, and when a nation embraces it, celebrates it, legalizes it, and lifts it up and exalts it over the Word of God and over man-woman marriage, God's design from the beginning, and we deliver our children to the fires of Molech, and I could go on and on with the horrendous, godless stuff that we do in this nation, it doesn't take long before God gives us over, listen to me, folks, to our enemies.
Yes.
Our enemies will destroy us and take us into captivity.
It has happened to every major civilization, every ruling power in the history of the world.
Go back.
Those two things that you just said, the acceptance and the promotion of sexual perversions, mainly homosexuality, but others as well.
Right.
And then leading up to human sacrifice. Now, listen, I believe that abortion is human sacrifice. But if you're sitting out there listening to me and you don't, then what about this? What about right now the fact that Planned Parenthood is arguing for what they're calling fourth trimester abortion?
Yeah.
What about that they want to let people decide to abort, quote, their born children up to age 4 years old?
And people,
Brandon's
not lying. Go on the internet, do a search. You'll see that that is what Planned Parenthood is discussing now. Killing children up to the age of 4 years born.
And not only is Planned Parenthood discussing it, we've got a whole generation right now of people who have been raised up in this abortion culture who are all for it. If you don't believe that, go and find the video of Joe Biggs of InfoWars on the University of Texas campus just 2 weeks ago, I think it was.
Right.
Got 45 signatures of college students signing a petition that clearly said that you could abort children up to 5 years old.
Yep. I know. I saw that video. Hey, you and I are going to get Joe Biggs on Freedom Friday one day soon, okay?
It's going to happen
Let's
very
do.
soon.
I'm going to wait till you're in the studio and co-host, and we're going to do that. Listen, Brandon, we're going to take a quick time out.